This is Willpower.
Incredible guest today, Todd Shipman from Leela Q. I'm thrilled to sit down. I just said to you right before I started recording, I'm familiar with your vibe, and I love your vibe, and so I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome to the Willpower Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kristin. And yeah, we've kind of gone back and forth for over the few years, getting to see each other at conferences and having dinners in the random places in Austin and everything. It's always been great.
Yeah, so beautiful. I've seen and talked with Philip, who's one of the founders, and I've had some experience of watching some presentations in some of the various conferences that we've been at. And it's come to the place over the last couple of years that I've really started to adopt more of this quantum energy and some of the tools that you guys have created into my life. And there's a lot of question around it. There's a lot of, discourse and conversation. And I think I just want to open with getting people familiar to your world and how you sort of stepped into and what inspired you to step more into working with Leela Q and this whole, the world of quantum energy.
Yeah, so I was a competitive ultra runner back in the day and running the 100-mile to 200-mile ultra marathons and not doing it very effective. It was really the gritty of stuff. So that's how I got introduced to biohacking. It was learning how to do maximum, results with minimal effort. And I just started getting into small things like cold therapy or ice fast after running 100 miles. And it opened up this whole space of what's available. And I actually got into the quantum world because I actually, and I have a lot of understanding and total sympathy or empathy for people who are firstly go quantum is woo woo. And that's because there's a lot of unethical marketing first off. But also just it sounds weird because you can't see it and it sounds very new age even though it's been around since the existence of time, quantum energy. But I started with the whole and sole purpose to debunk quantum energy. And I got into this with, now this wasn't Leela Q because this was 2015 and they weren't around until 2019. But in 2015, I had this quantum necklace that came about and it was basically advertising, and I had friends that were trying it, but that it had all these micronutrients as a frequency base, and you wear it and you're getting these micronutrients. And I was like, well, that is absolutely silly. And this would be a really easy thing to debunk. So we're not getting other people to waste money. And so what I had done is I'm a very monotonous eater. So I went through and I ate the same meal. I did it for the first 40 days and then I got my test. And this has been solo. I didn't have any, I wasn't using the quantum necklace yet. And I did the test and I had, it was 5 or 6 different vitamin deficiencies. So from there, after 40 days of eating that regular, I put on the necklace, and for 40 days, these are they're called SpectraCell micronutrient tests. It's the top of the line. And so after the 40 days, which is what they told us to wear it for, or told me to wear it, that's when I'll see the results. For the 40 days, got the test again, and everything came back optimal. All my micronutrients. So I continued for another 40 days, got it, everything was optimal, and I did another 40 days. So I wore this for a very long time, was eating the same foods, and perfect. Then I took the necklace off and I went back and got 40 days of testing after not wearing the necklace, and it went back to deficiencies. So at least in my mind, that was there's something to this. And I was, okay, well, and I'd shared all these results on social media at that point, and I just was really interested. So that's where I got into it in terms of there's got to be something to it. And then Leela Quantum came around in 2019, and that's when I kind of jumped in with them and had some passion because they're doing other things too. They have a way more vast variety of products, whether it's clothing that are actually EMF-blocking clothing, like the jacket I have on. We have hats, t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, all that, and then to the quantum energy stuff, which we can talk about. That have some of them. Yeah. So cool. And I know we've kind of said and thrown around the word quantum here, and it might be good to kind of give a quick minute of what is quantum.
Yeah, I think we want to define it for sure. What is quantum? Because it is a word, and like you really eloquently said, in the marketing landscape, it's like the quantum pen, the quantum water bottle, just there are lots of people utilizing the word quantum, like slapping it on a label of something to make it feel either more metaphysical or more on trend. And because it is not a monitored word, that is very challenging to many people. I also think it works in both ways. Some people are like, oh, I'm drawn to that. And then some people are like, that is not for me. So I want to encourage any listeners to really kind of get down to brass tacks and understanding really who and what quantum is as we define it and how it is applied to the specific tools that are working for you. And yeah, just knowing that you did that experiment, and we'll talk about the other one that you did later on. Yeah, just giving us the primer on quantum as a term.
Yeah. So again, I completely recognize quantum. It comes across really woo-woo in that fact, even though, again, it's been around since the very beginning of time, because it's what it is, which I'll go into in a minute. But, you have quantum biology, quantum physics, quantum mechanics, computing, all that. And then this is definitely a different thing. So you're talking about like an entire umbrella of just a word. But like what we're working with and what we're going to be speaking about is it's pure quantum energy, and that operates at like a subatomic level. So it just serves as the foundational energy behind all matter. And it's right there at the end. So, it's in a pure form, such as what this is going to be. It just becomes this like calming, it comes balancing force that just radiates outward. Now, when saying that, because it like basically neutralizes everything it encounters, but it's not like inherently a positive or a negative energy. It's just, again, it's calming, it harmonizes, and it's just expanding and like creating a balance.
Like a modulator
that's in a space.
Right?
Yeah. So like you can think of the ether and stuff like that. It's just kind of this calming space. And now, again, it's not positive, it's not negative, but it will neutralize anything that is negative once it's in the space. And a really good way to, again, if that's even a little confusing, it's like anything with quantum energy. And if you are in an area where you are actually having this pure quantum energy activated, it's basically like a bubble wrap around your biofield or even just your body, of like protecting you from any type of environmental and external stressors and factors that are not good for you. And that's EMFs just randomly, it could be things like mold and anything else from the outside that isn't beneficial for you.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit, like, where are the other places you are seeing this terminology used that you're like, okay, this doesn't make any sense? Like, where might people discover the word quantum in correlation with products that are like, this just isn't working for me?
So there's a lot of, which I see through my ads all day, is like you've got these quantum stickers, and the quantum stickers you're supposed to be able to stick on your AirPods or your cell phone, and to neutralize the EMFs, or, they use word, I think which is kind of like, this is again where it's unethical marketing, is I think I have seen quite a few. So I'm not trying to make a blanket statement, but a lot of them do say they block EMFs, and that is absolutely false. And that's a quick, simple way, because you have Faraday cages and those work. Faraday cages will block EMFs, but in the process, you can't use whatever technology that is. So if you put your phone or your Wi-Fi router in a Faraday cage, they just don't work.
You can't use it.
Right.
That's how it's working.
Yeah, exactly. It does what it's supposed to do. And what we're doing, we're not even saying what we're doing, because it's not like we created this pure quantum energy. It's just something in existence. We utilize it and learn how to really benefit from it. But when you have this, you're neutralizing the harmful effects EMFs have on our body. So that's the difference of what these products do. But that being said, because again, we're becoming a larger company, so we are out and seeing what competitors are doing or what other people are claiming. And so Philip, the founder, is taking these products and actually testing them at the same institutes, the Besa Institute and stuff, that we have our products tested. So this is third party. We don't have any influence on the results, but we have yet. And again, I would preface, I'm not saying there isn't one that doesn't exist. There could be one, and that's great. But at this point, every single one that we've ever tested do nothing. And we can also go into what does that mean, do nothing? Because like, how do you quantify that? How do you measure that? Which is important.
Yeah.
But at this point, we have failed to find anything that people send us to test that actually is neutralizing the harmful effects that EMFs have on our body. But you just see quantum, lots of things, quantum charged, this and that. And it's just, yeah, which you can make yourself literally, like after saying that, but put that under the block and then it's charged, it's enhanced. You can use the word quantum, but again, that's I'm very into like ethical marketing, especially in the biohacking alternative health space. I think it's very important to have integrity and morals with your products because then it comes across very fear mongering or you're taking advantage of people that are just desperate to feel better. And so anything I do, it's very important that we have, we're not making wild claims. And it is the wild, wild west out there with claims. Like we said, like you can see these stickers that you put on your AirPods and they're going to block the EMFs and they're just claim, it's just, I have a lot of
Do anecdotal studies where 97% of people who were given this like loved it or changed their lives, and that's really like a subjective or anecdotal in many ways.
Absolutely.
Or their own research. So I want to talk a bit about just like the measurements, which is interesting, and just at a top level, just what are you measuring when you're seeing if something quote unquote works in this arena?
So what we do is we look at like our biomarkers and how they are reactive to EMFs. Because first off, we don't really see them, just like we don't see cell phones or microwaves, but they're out there. We're aware of that. Like, of course, it's a science to it. But there are people who are very sensitive to EMFs, and there are people that can't feel them regardless. And, I think we, as humans, our bodies are extremely resilient. So if we're just in an area where we have just EMFs, I think our bodies in general, if you're healthy, can handle it. Like our mitochondria can handle it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't come without some type of consequence, which is usually you could have a budget of the day. Your mitochondria might be like, okay, well, we're living under a cell tower, or I sleep on a Wi-Fi router. So I've got to spend 40% of our energy today, protecting us from the EMFs, what they're going to do. And then, which is fine because we can go throughout the day, but we're not at 100%. And then you throw something in like mold in your environment, and then your mitochondria is like, well, crap, now I got to use 20% here and 40% on the mold. And that's when you start to really can feel things, most people. But regardless of that, we can still see what it's doing to your body, which it's going to do to your body. It's not just some people or whatever. And the biomarkers that we are checking, other ones that you can also check are, so your heart rate variability, HRV. People are always looking at it on the Oura Ring, and it's telling you like what's the stress factors, how's your body recovered, and when you have EMS hitting your body, it's going to lower your HRV. You have your heart rate, which can increase because just like any form of stress, especially if it's an invisible stress, your body increases its heart rate and gets things ready to go and starts healing things. There's other ways to check like your calcium channels. And the coolest thing one of the coolest things that we do, because it is real-time analyzation, is dark field microscopy. So you do like basically like live blood analysis. So we can see real-time what's going on inside your blood and how it acts. And so like if you are affected or exposed to EMFs, your blood actually starts to clot. It gets sticky. We call them like money rolls. Mm-hmm. And you can see these photos on our website.
Coagulation in the red blood cells.
Yeah, and that's from stress. And then so we have over 60 double-blind placebo controlled tests on our website, so you can see the photos of all this before and afters. And where we started with these tests were basically, like Kristin would say, you're in that room right now, let's say, and there's no EMFs, there's nothing stressing you right now in that room. And then we would do those biomarkers. So we test those numbers and see where you're at, like a baseline. And then we would come in and bring all your equipment in that you have for your podcast, right? So in your Wi-Fi and whatever, Bluetooth. And then we retest those numbers. And what we're going to see is that your HRV's down, maybe your calcium channels are just going wild and confused, and your blood is going to be stickier. Yeah. And then what we do is we come in and bring that block that's right behind you, and we let it sit there for about 10 minutes. And these are all third-party tests, by the way. It's not things that we just do by ourselves. But and from there, after that block has been in the room with you for about 10 minutes, we will retest your levels, and they will all go pre-exposure to EMFs. So even though the EMFs are in there, your body on a biological and physiological level are still being protected. And the cool thing about this is these aren't studies where it's like, hey, 23% saw benefits. It's everyone. It's 100%, because it's not our products are doing this. It's just science of what pure quantum energy does. It harmonizes and neutralizes anything that is like, disruptive waveform patterns. So it's kind of like, okay, like it's just there. It's like black and white to it. But if you are exposed to quantum energy, these are the side effects, positive side effects and benefits that you're going to have being in there. So those are the kind of studies. And these are double blind placebo. So we did them with fake fake blocks that weren't charged, and we showed, and there was no difference. So
Yeah, so cool. And just all the ways that you are weaving this technology, which we refer to it as technology typically, into the heel capsule necklace and
yeah,
the travel block, and there's cards and things so that if you're on the go and you're working your way around, like I have a busy lifestyle where I'm like moving around a lot. I'm going to San Diego for the weekend to train and then coming back, and then the block is beautiful in my house. And it's sort of interesting too, because when I first set it up, I was like, oh, I had a really amazing day the next day. And I was like, why do I feel so good? This is all from the Leela Q. Like, it's interesting and amazing. And one of my biohacker friends has one here, and I was setting hers up with her a month ago, and I was like excited about the whole process. And it's just, there's this notion of this other underlying piece that like it is functionally working based on the research that you're sharing. And also knowing that it is in my space and the support that it's providing me, even if a portion of that is like shifting my thoughts into becoming things, and I think that there's enough people in the world now. I just want to sort of lean into this question a bit, or just, have you share your thoughts. There's enough people in the world now that are like really sitting with and meditating and doing Joe Dispenza and really understanding, I think, at a different level, some of this correlation of what this quantum field may be comprised of, enough science behind it that I think we're in a place globally where we can really, really say, most people, there is something here. Do we fully 100% understand it? No, it's always and ever expanding. Like the science is always changing. And what does the word understand mean? But that we have a lot of knowledge around how it functions in some way. And the more that I watch, I think I've just been doing a little Dispenza binging lately, but the more that I watch some of these, the research and the notions that he brings to the table, the more that I work with companies like you, the more it's like, we don't know what we don't know. A lot of people are out there in the world being like, what? Wait, what is this quantum thing? I don't understand. And I just want to encourage them to do a little bit more research around the landscape of it. Because many people are like, I love it. Anything quantum and I'm in. And there are many people, like you said, that are like, I don't understand this. It doesn't make literal direct sense. And I didn't study it in math or science class in sixth grade. So I just can't get my head around it. Yeah. So you have any thoughts about...
Joe Dispenza is great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. What was your
I was just
question?
thinking, do you have any thoughts about the work that Joe is doing, supporting all the efforts?
Yeah.
And the work that you guys are doing is just, incredible. Like, again, I encourage people to go to Leela Q's website because the studies are there, because the photo imagery is there of the blood. And that just makes me as a biohacker be able to feel so confident in what's happening.
Yeah, I think I've always loved Joe. I'm pretty sure everyone loves Joe. And if you haven't done any of his work, like there's so much free content on YouTube. It's definitely some of the most impactful stuff I've done in my life. And I think there is complements between each other because his science is different focused, but it brings validity to it as well as ours does. And, especially with the whole... Just like it's a great introduction to, like, as you said, the quantum field, and people being like, well, that sounds even weirder, but it is. And it's what it is. It's the quantum field. It's the ether. It's just it kind of breaks down into, if you want to go even deeper with that, is like quantum entanglement, which can really blow people's mind when you understand that, like, quantum entanglement, the concept of it. And I've witnessed it with my own eyes at the studies that we did at like university, or like in Tulsa and stuff, where it's like, what's available. But just so people understand that, like, the Nobel Prize in 2022 was awarded in physics all on the research of quantum entanglement. And that's a lot of also kind of, it kind of dives a little deeper, but that's where Joe Dispenza is with the quantum field and like coherence and helping each other. And I think they validate each other because it's kind of two ends that can come together, but they're two different focuses. But that being said, that's one very powerful thing about the block, is being able to, and this isn't something that we market. It's just stuff that we see. This is anecdotal, but we have a Telegram group with over 8,000 people in it, where it's just people sharing their experiences with quantum products. And, it's like, well, this Leela product did this and I did this and I tried this. So it's not governed by us, but it's different people explaining things, and putting your intentions and your goals inside the block is basically intensifying them into the quantum field. So it's very cool. It's become very common to do that. I've been doing that for like 5 years with goals and intentions, and it's mind blowing how powerful it is. So
Yeah. My friend
Yeah.
Remy, who's in Amsterdam, has one of the larger blocks in his home, and he will like write little notes to himself or things that are in his like short-term intention or long-term intention, and he will
Hmm.
like leave them in the block for some days and time. And I think it's all really beautiful like practices as well, right? Really setting our intention up. It's like the Emily Fletcher, who's a meditation teacher, always says, like, if you don't place your order with the cosmic waitress at the universe diner, it's going to deliver you something. If you're not specific, you better watch out. And like, how do you really deliver the order that you want so that you're not just getting something that's, maybe meant for you, but not all of the things you ever dreamed of. And so
Right.
I think there's a
Yeah.
lot to be said for that. Can we talk a little bit about the seafood experiment? And also, I just
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
mention for listeners, if people are wanting to unpack EMF, electromagnetic frequency, magnetic fields, episode 2, many, many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I started talking about EMF. Andreas Breitfeld from Germany was talking a lot about EMFs with his big, thick, beautiful German accent, and really gives a kind of the primer overview on what it is, how the German military tested it, how kind of clothing can help in some ways, but that we are finding more and more that it's really challenging to mitigate or to modulate some of the EMF waves. And until we find, technology like Leela Q, if we're not wrapping ourselves in a blanket that's like silver woven EMF protective material, which we can't always do, then that, we have to find other sources to do this. And I also will say that there are things out there that I have seen and even myself been like, oh, this is cool. They're using a crystal and a light and a thing and a this and kind of turns out in the long run when I've sat and really looked into like the research, it's a little bit of like, there's not a lot backing it up. So the things that you're talking about, I've seen in my world, I've tested and tried too. And yeah, it's unfortunate we can't get things to work easily. And also it's so important to share this message that Leela Quantum is sharing with their technology, because these are actual tools that have, tried and true backup to be able to shift the way that our states are
Yeah.
having it every day, right? It's just about healing. It's about bringing more health to the landscape. But the thing that blew my mind it's one of the first times I think I saw you before I'd even like met you in person, was a conversation and a presentation with like Philip and you were there and we were talking all about this, like all
Ian.
about seafood.
Yeah.
Ian was there, yeah, and like the seafood experiments. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, going back to like the biohacking mindset of things where you kind of go out, venture off on your own unexplored territory, which is what's been really cool with all the Leela products. And again, we're going back to like the Telegram group, because that's really, you can really see that under a microscope, how people are off the beaten path and how they're utilizing it themselves. And what I was doing is, so I unfortunately have a terrible, it's not fatal, but it is horrible allergic response to things like crab, honey, and avocado. And it is rough for like 8 hours. It's like I got stung by 100 bees, and it's really, and it's an instant reaction. So when I was talking to Ian once, he was telling me how, when he was explaining more about these products, that it was like,
Just
well, it'll,
Ian is Ian Mitchell, and he's on. If
oh,
you
sorry,
go,
Ian
you look
Mitchell.
up a
Yes.
podcast. He's talked a bit about the different types of quantum that exist in the landscape of our vernacular and science and things like that. So he's a dear
Yeah.
friend of ours as well. So yeah, go ahead.
And he's a chief science officer for Leela Quantum. So, he there's no one better to like explain the actual science behind a lot of stuff. And he was explaining that, it's like, yeah, it really will just go in and remove any destructive waveform patterns that you're exposed to. And I was like, well, what about like food, because I always looked at it as a direct response relation, because like, well, no, it's vibrations and frequencies, and we can have control of that. So I tried it just one time where I put some crab under the block, and I did it for like 10 minutes. And then when I ate it, there was no response, and it's an instant response. And I was like, okay, there's definitely something to this. Is really cool. So, this is funny because this is the way I was trying things. But at the time I was like, oh, I'm really going to test it. And sometimes I don't have justification why I did things, but I even tried it in my eyes. Like, so I took some crab juice and put it in my eyes, and because I wanted to really test this. And I was like, so I started figuring out ways, because I could sit here and tell you.
And that's important, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to call
Yeah. And I wanted to try different ways.
work. Yeah.
So I was trying these different routes, because it was like, now we were doing this for like over a few months, where I was like, I can eat the avocado, I can eat honey now, I can eat foods that I was normally had an extreme reaction to isn't happening, which is amazing. And we were doing things where like my wife would take one and put under the block and not the other, and then I test it without knowing, you know. So we were doing things like, is this really a placebo? Like, is my mind that powerful that I can just believe this food's good for me now and I don't have this insane 8-hour reaction? That would be amazing. I'm open for that too, you know. So we would do that, and then it would just be like the one that she didn't do, I'd eat it, and it was just, oh, this sucks for a while. But so what we were trying to find was like a way, because, you know, I could sit on stage and be like, oh, I could eat it, and be like, yeah, I could lie and be like, oh, yeah, I don't feel anything or whatever. And so I was like, let's find a way to do this like as a visual aspect. So I was like, okay. So what we did was we took a derma roller, and I derma rolled my left forearm, and we took the crab juice or crab meat with the juice, and we poured it on there, and it just instantly flares up. It's so painful. It's overwhelming to me on that point. And it's like, there's just no way. I'm scratching. It's really bad. And then we put it under the block. I ended it specifically for like 6 minutes under the block while we were on stage, and he was explaining what was occurring. His way of saying it is also like, when we're talking about, like, you know, waveform patterns, is like, look at the ocean and how the top has these waves. It's aggressive, and visually you're seeing everything kind of turbulent, but underneath it's really calm. So like what the Leela, the Leela products are doing, what's under there is it's wiping off all those waves, and it just makes everything calm and peaceful. And that was his visual for it. So then about after 6 minutes of talking, we did my right arm, and we did the derma roller and then the crab meat, and there was no response whatsoever. So I could eat it, no problem. And then one thing that was cool that I never got to talk about, because it's, again, it's not a visual thing, and but it's definitely there, is if I could take my left arm, which had all the crab meat on it that was affected, if I put that under the block, the severe irritation and stuff would go away. But visually, I still have all the red bumps and everything that are there. But all the
you could feel it being better, like being better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have many stories. There was someone who was stung by a wasp, and they were fatally allergic to wasps, and wasp stings or whatever, and they rushed into the ER, and it was one of my friends actually happened to have a block in his car, and he was like, I don't know if it's going to do anything, but put your hand under it. And he did, and the person did, and the wasp thing like stopped burning them. But they were like, I'm going to die if you don't get me to the ER. And they did that, you know. And it's not a case for everything that's going to happen, but what we do find, because I did it, a few other people started realizing that they could consume things that they had allergies or bad tolerances to, and it became such a thing that they started actually doing a study. And I might misspeak a little on this. I understand the results, but like the way this study was done was, this was done in Europe, and they basically, if you eat something and then after you urinate, they can test your urine, and there is a response. They can see the allergic response, which I believe is from a protein that's in your urine, that they could say, oh, you ate something that gave you a histamine response or an allergic reaction. So what they did is they would put whatever that person was having issues with under the block. And I don't know the exact amount of time that they did this. It could be 10 or 20 minutes, because it might just be a different time for everyone. And then when they would consume that food again, and then when they tested the urine samples, there was an 83% suppression in the allergic reaction.
Wow.
Just from it. So those are the cool things, again, with the Telegram group, is just when enough people start seeing things, Philip will be like, well, let's put some money into testing this stuff and seeing if like the validity of it.
Yeah, so cool. And then a lot of times we hear this term, or you've used it or I've used it. It's like, well, the other day I'm like, I make my cacao or my coffee in the morning, and I like put my mug into the quantum block, and I charge it for a couple minutes, and then have my coffee or have whatever it might be, decaf. I'm on decaf these days. And food and things like that. Whenever I go to Sun Life Organics out here, they put the shake in there, and I'm always like, okay, it's a vibe.
Yeah.
And all of that. And so charging the food or charging the drinks in there, charging jewelry, charging your intention, whatever it might be. I want to sort of speak to both when you look at the technologies, they are in this golden color, and just they're made of metal. And so I want to really speak to like materiality. Like, is there a reason that it's the metals you use are chosen? And when we're talking about charging it, just like, not just kind of like what does it mean, but like, how does that work?
Yeah. Okay. So it's gold plated aluminum, and it's just it's one of the more conductive materials, which is what we want to keep it as. And then the gold is beautiful too, and it's very aesthetic. But With the charging, so places like Sun Life Organics, nationwide, they have the Leela blocks in there at every store. And, for people who don't know, Sun Life Organics are kind of like a high-end, fancy, like acai bowl, smoothie, and shake place. And it's an awesome place, but so every store they have them, and what they're using them for there isn't even so much the space, is like what you're saying is charging. I probably that specific focus is like enhancing, because what you're doing is I'm gonna take a step back at least for what that stuff is, and the so people understand. But it's like a lot of people know who Dr. Emoto is, and Dr. Emoto is more well known for his research with water. And if you take these words, you take positive words and you put it over the bottle, and the negative words and you freeze them, when you're looking at them under a microscope, whether it's a full, actual structured water, or is it stressed and sad and stuff. So the Emoto Institute actually did studies for us with our Leela products and its relationship to water. And after they did the research, they came back and asked if they could sell our products at their facility, which we are the only company or product that Emoto sells products for, because they were so impressed with how fast the water changed into structured and enhanced it. So that's stepping back. So you're enhancing the water, structured water, which is a whole nother podcast on benefits of structured water, but it's going to make everything more vibrant. It actually brings water to a conscious and living and healthy and hydrating and just energetic, as opposed to stressed in a pipe. So the Leela Q products and just the quantum energy, as well as like the frequencies that we can add to that, just bring water back to that primal state of spring water. And when you're doing that with food, so you like for Sun Life Organics, you're talking about fruit, and fruit is full of water. So when you are putting that smoothie or acai bowl or whatever you're having under the block, it's enhancing it actually with the water, and it makes it more flavorful, which you can definitely notice. So you can charge your food under there. We find pretty much, anything that comes through my house or comes into my house goes through the block. My wife is adamant everything goes through there.
In there. And then it's like, don't charge those too long. They will become perceptual.
Yeah, and they will. That's what. So, and it's the same thing with so your coffee and your cacao and everything. If it's liquid, it actually makes it stronger, and that's just the structured water science. So that's not even Leela, but if you're structuring something, it makes it more enhanced and it makes it more strong. So water can be stronger. Coffee is stronger. The caffeine and stuff gets enhanced on it. So you can do jewelry. You can do which actually just creates it more like vibrant, and it actually will vibrate. And there are people, and we can see this. There are actually people that do see auras. They see vibrations and energies, and they could tell you without seeing which products. And Philip is one of those people. Philip can tell you which product was put under, like which ring. If you put two, he'll let you know which one was under the block. And you can do that. He can also do that with fruit. If you take a blackberry and you put one under the block and not the other, he'll know. He can taste it and tell you which one was put under the block. Like he's that in tune and intuitive with it. So there are plenty of people who can actually see the difference, even if we don't visually see the vibration of it. But jewelry, and as well as that's the thing is rings and stuff. If you put those under there, you're charging them with pure quantum energy at a very base level. And there's more you can do with these. So you can transfer frequency. So you could take your vitamin D supplements or B complex supplements and stuff and put those under the block with your ring or a necklace or any type of metal jewelry, ideally jewelry, I'd say, because it's always close to you. And it will transfer and take on those frequencies. So you could be wearing, which is what these capsules really are. So like the Leela Q capsules, they have the pure quantum energy, but in the so the titanium spheres inside of our, the capsule, it is charged with pure quantum energy. The actual custom frequencies are actually attached to the brass itself. So the quantum energy is, right, it's radiating out, and that's how you're getting the frequencies. But from there, we have like 83 micronutrients. There's a lot of different types of frequencies that are added to it, and you can make your own if you have a block at home.
That's also why it's important with the necklace, the capsule, which is so beautiful. And they have the one that's like the smaller one is lovely for females. That it's important that the capsule, the components inside and the capsule are together. Right. I think you can use either chain, the black rope, or the chain that it comes on. I use it on my chain because I feel like it's got more vibes to it, but like that the capsule and the internal components of the capsule are together. It's not like you're taking them out or swallowing the components internally or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. You need both of them. But sometimes for people with it's too intense, so they have to remove some of the spheres out, which is noticeable. But yeah, so you can put things like your AirPods and your Apple Watch and your iPhone or your phones, anything that emits EMFs under there. You would want to recharge those probably every like 4 to 6 weeks at most, or like the latest is 6 weeks, and to like help it. But like metal pieces of jewelry only need to be charged once.
So cool. And I think a lot of listeners and people who are like still, navigating down this pathway of understanding all of the tools and saying, okay, great, I'm here with it, but like, what does a company do in order to like charge it? Like, how do you charge what's the magic? What's the magic sauce?
Yeah, so that is the one proprietary concept to it, and I think that's what they to protect themselves and to not have people steal the technologies. But that's the one. I don't even know it. It's the one secret to it.
If they tell you, they
which
have
is
to
also yeah. It's not even so much you have hey trust us kind of thing. It's you can see all the double blind placebo tests to show that it is real. It's there, and Philip. One thing is Philip was the global vice president of T-Mobile. So previous to Leela Quantum. So like you can see he went from one side of the spectrum of EMFs and all that to this. And that's one thing I really appreciate about him is we were talking about Faraday cages earlier. And Philip's main focus is like not so much living in this fear, but how do we synergistically work with these new technologies and gifts or whatever you want to call like the ability to communicate more effectively that are giving off EMFs, but like how do we use them and not be so, again, biologically affected. And that's why, we're sitting here, you and I are talking. I wear my AirPods. I have an Apple Watch. I have everything, which I wouldn't be doing if I didn't have any of my products on and stuff. But like, while I'm doing this, it's allowing me to utilize new technologies without the harmful effects of the EMFs.
And I think the other thing is to talk to people just briefly about like there's a whole product line here, right? And it's there's all different tools that are in the arsenal that can be used, whether it be for travel or on the go. And do you want to just talk about a few of the different things? Because I think there's a notion too, sometimes people are like, hey, I want to find the thing that's going to fit my budget and my lifestyle, and what's the best starter, et cetera, when it comes to Leela Q.
Great question. Yeah. And we have a vast variety of different products out there. So as I mentioned before, we have the clothing, and the clothing, while it actually does block EMFs, they're also always charged with quantum energy and usually custom frequencies. So like our Heal 360 frequencies, what the jacket is, and other products, but we have a hat and stuff too.
First time I'm seeing it in the flesh, and it's like
yeah, well, it's very nice, right?
It's got a vibe, yeah, for sure. I like it a lot.
That's the benefits of Europeans. Philip being European, it's always very stylish. And one thing on that too is like I call the term low-key biohacking, and that is what I'm doing with this stuff in a way, because this is just a Montclair jacket, really. It's down filled, it's 20 degrees, and this thing legitimately keeps me warm. And it's not one of those jackets that when you're walking through the airport, you have these signs being like, look at me, guys, look at me, I'm being healthy, blocking EMFs. Like, yeah, no one is gonna know. No one's gonna know that this is an EMF blocking jacket that I'm wearing because it's stylish. The hats are great. The t-shirts, everything is just like low key casual wear that you're not throwing up these signs of, attention getting that you would with a lot of other products. I've always been in the EMF world stuff with this, and it's like, you're always wearing something that like points attention at you. So I appreciate that about those. And then the other things we have, of course, are like the capsules, and we have different types of capsules. We have the Olympic for like performance enhancement. We have the Heal 360. We have the smaller versions. We have a larger version. We have men's version and women's version. And what those are going to do is they have frequencies that like basically focus on promoting skin, nail, hair, and bone health, and then hormone balancing. Our most popular one for sure, and especially if someone wants to get into our product line, would just be like probably the Heal capsule. And that's the most popular, most common one we have. It's a great starting point where someone's like, I don't want to throw money into a block yet, which I totally understand, but like you'll be able to experience and feel it through that. And so we have things like these, or we call them frequency cards, and they just the same size as a credit card. We have about 35 different custom frequencies on those. That being said, I want to step back for a moment because one thing is at a very baseline, every Leela product we have is going to neutralize the harmful effects of EMFs on the body. Okay, so that's every product we have. You're going to get the EMF benefits, but then all these other products that we're talking about have different goals and specifications with whichever frequency they're emitting. You can choose which ones you want. If you want one that's helping with like giving you a gratitude space, so it's putting it in your biofield, abundance, prosperity. We have, calming. We have DNA cell protector, which kind of helps with anyone if you're around people that got the jab at any point. With a vast variety of different ones that we have. There's like probably 35 right now frequencies that we have. Sleep, better
water
sleep,
bottle
inner
you
peace.
have as well, like the one that you can
We have a water bottle that. Yeah, and that has the heal frequencies in there, and it's going to charge and structure the water. Any liquid you put in there, technically, it's going to work. And we have 2 different versions of that. And then, of course, we have the blocks. We have bracelets, different types of jewelry for you to wear. We have coasters that you put your water on, and it just kind of helps that way. But the blocks are kind of like the big thing. So we could take a moment and kind of talk about those because we do have different types of blocks. Mm-hmm. Our first one we ever had was the quantum block. The one you have behind you is the infinity block, and which are very strong. But when, again, keep bringing up the Telegram group, but people give feedback like, hey, I want to change this. And there are people, and I am jealous to have small enough heads that they can put their heads, like my wife can put her head in that block, the infinity one behind you, and she just keeps it in there. She has a headache, it goes away. Anytime you put your feet in there and stuff, and we can talk about the benefits of putting your body inside those 2 in a minute. But and then so with feedback we started making larger ones, kind of like what they have at Sun Life Organics. Theirs is much larger than the one you could buy on our website originally. And then last year we came up with we have the gram block, and that's big enough basically that you could put 2 bags of like whole food grocery bags, 2 bags of those under the block at once, which makes life really efficient when you want you got 2 things of eggs and milk and whatever you want, like 2 bags can go in there all at once. And that also allows for larger items. So you can put your whole meals under there, plates.
And I will tell you an interesting story about that because my friend in Amsterdam is one of the first people to get that larger block. What's the name of the large one?
Grand block.
Block. And I was going to visit him, and I had been to his place 3 or 4 times before. I usually visit a couple times a year. It's like a whole breathwork community out there. Shout out to Remy. He's just a dear friend. And he had this grand block, and I came to his house probably the 4th time I had been there. And I walked in the door, and I was like undiscussed. I was like, what's different about the house? Like it looks different. And do you paint anything? Like I walked into the kitchen and put my bags down and was like, it feels really different in here. Like walked into the early doorway of the living room before I could see the block. And I was like, yeah, the place is looking really nice. It just somehow it feels like buena onda. Like when I lived in Argentina or when you go down to Costa Rica, they say buena onda, like good vibes, good energy.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I don't know if this could be it, but look what I got. And I was like, it just was interesting because I'd been in the space, I'd been in the place, there was no other major changes. And I was like, oh, I'm just feeling like something's like cozier in there, right? Or like something just felt more like warm and loving or friendly or I don't know. And I was like, maybe it's just his energy. And then he was like, I think it could be the grand block. And I was like, wow, it's amazing. And it's big enough you can put body parts. And it's the only one, my head doesn't really fit in that one either. It's so funny. That's like one of the first things I was like, does it? Oh, okay. But the grand block, yeah, you can fit lots of stuff in there. It's great.
Yeah. And that has so inside the blocks is by far the most intense and the powerful aspect of it. But again, with the quantum energy, it radiates out. So like the grand block, it's about 2 kilometers is the radius on that, which is pretty impressive. So your neighbors are benefiting. If you live on a larger property, anything that's on your property is going to be benefiting from that. But it's the inside of the block area where like the magnet kind of technology in a way, if you think about it, the way it would work is it's all in that little spot. But so putting your legs under there, your arms, and that's where we're seeing because I know we're talking about each part what else we can do because we have all these things, but like having this stuff around you, I just want to step back and talk about like where we're seeing more research is like we're finding basically 100% increase in wound healing. Like, so if you have an injury or a cut, like you can put your hand under the block. And we're seeing again 100% increase in wound healing. And again, it's not always so much the frequencies, but again, if you don't have like external factor that are stressing you, like your body, the products when you're in quantum energy, you're putting yourself back in a natural state. So your body can focus all that mitochondria budget that it has on healing you faster. We see a 29% increase in ATP production. We see increase in white cell blood cells. We see improvement of like oxygenation. So that's all the other things, by the way, that you can benefit with these technologies.
Our body is such a huge percentage of water, and we talked about what it's doing to water. It's the same as like we're like a fruit, right? It's going to be able to make those shifts happen in the body. That's wound healing studies. Cool. Yeah.
So that stuff, again, it just makes your body be able to do what it was meant to do if you're without the without this environmental stressors that are going on. So you can put your body parts into there. Now, this is extremely anecdotal, but it's also big enough for me to be comfortable talking about. But like my wife, she has breast implants, and she got them and she started having really bad symptoms. And during COVID, we signed up to have them taken out by a doctor in Jupiter, Florida. And there was a 1.5 year waiting list. So we got on that waiting list, and what she started doing, and this was, one of the other, the female owner of Leela Q crew, she was like, well, put your body under the gram block. Like, it's big enough now, so you can put your body under that and sit. And so she would lay under the block, and all of her symptoms of, now, I'm not saying this is going to be 100% for everyone, but like she was having horrible symptoms, and enough that we were willing to spend the $40,000, no questions asked, like to have them removed. And it was like, she just doesn't have the problem anymore. She doesn't have the symptoms. And to the point where when it came back around to getting them out, even the doctor was like, listen, if you don't have these symptoms, don't get them out. And again, that's a very personal situation. I don't think many people will agree, but I'm just like, that was an experience that we had, whereas like, she's like, I just don't have any of the issues anymore that I had. So you can put your whole body parts under there. And it's just, we have the new one now that just came out 3 weeks ago, which is the Super Block. And that is by far most powerful. It also looks different. We went with a round plates instead of the square. And then with the design, we made it so it's 3 columns instead of 4. And you can put more things in there easier. You put a whole plate of food in there now. And like, so again, all this listening to feedback of people, what they would like to change and how they could better utilize the technologies. So that one is extremely powerful. It's a 5,600 on the Hawkins scale of consciousness. So it is at this point, the highest quantum technology of anything that has been calibrated at that level. It's very intense, and it's amazing.
I think for people who are sensitive, these things can really be felt, and it's like a whole wide array of different humans in the world that can tap into sort of different energies and the way that they feel and how sensitive they are. And we know this specifically, of course, from EMF in general, right? Because people who are highly sensitive to EMF can sort of like feel like, oh, the intensity of like their cell phone or being around too much of it and all of that. So, and not to mention the slight heating of the cells that happens over time. So figuring all that out and getting ourselves to mitigate any of that, or just to be able to like you said, this beautiful thing that Ian shared, which is like to chop off the tops of the waves to make the water just be in its own container without the rough parts. And so we talked a bit about EMF. We talked about the response in the body. Is there anything else that we're seeing consistently, anecdotally, or in the research that the support? I want to say there's a lot around energetics and emotionality and things like that it's making me feel shifted around, but I was wondering if people are talking about things like that.
Yeah, again, I think it's just like going to the emotions and stuff. It's just a bubble wrap of external stressors, which just allows your body to release things because it's not having to focus on a protective mode. It just gets to be in its natural state. So I think that just creates that opportunity for us to heal faster and have, we have like, I don't want to call them sister companies, but we have other companies. So we have Traumeasy, which is when you're talking about emotions and stuff that we actually have on our website, you can go and see like how we can utilize the technology of quantum energy with frequencies to help you actually create a space and environment for you to release traumas. And so that's one way we're seeing it. We have, Quantum Upgrade, which is the quantum entanglement technology, which is more of a subscription base, which we have. You can go sign up for that. It's quantumupgrade.io, or just social media too is that. And you can get a free trial and test that out, and you can see different ways, and you can customize frequencies. So you can change your frequencies for the day. Like if you don't want to buy a physical product, you get on there and get stuff like, oh, I want to go today with the abundance frequency in my biofield, and it creates that. And again, there's tons of double-blind placebo studies that we have with the quantum upgrade as well. So
And this whole
and that's
quantum entanglement is just so interesting how it's like, for listeners, I think my oversimplification at a very low level is like you're changing sort of the waveform, or you're affecting an object in space in one area that's not even anywhere near some other space, but that because of the connection and the specific wavelengths or the connection in the quantum, that those things are then, we see them reverberate off of each other. Much like a lot of times people have the pendulum swing or the tuning fork thing, and they're showing you, I see this on social media all the time. And
yeah, I love that one.
From each other, and they're tuned to the same, the same note or the same frequency, and you hit one and the other one resonates. But these two pieces of quantum entangled items are like resonating at a distance that's like, wait a minute, how did that even happen? Right? It's like,
Well, it just reiterates that, the totality of existence in a way, like everything is connected. And, you can go look at the Nobel Prize and the studies they did with that. But, for example, the studies that we have done, and again, I am told like this can be over people's head just because it still doesn't make sense to like until you see this and you see the results. But it would be the same as like, hey, Kristin, you're over there and you don't have a block, but you're going through some situations. So for example, what I could do if you didn't have a block, and we have these double-blind placebo tests. I can't say enough because it's still hard to believe some of these things that go on. But so we found that like I could take a photo, like you could on your phone real quick, take a selfie, send me that photo, send me a text. I can take that photo that's on my phone and I can put it under my block. Oh, hey, you can see my block. So put it under my block, and within 10 minutes, with you having a block there, but your face with your eyes are the identifier, show here at my house here in Sonoma, California, that all the way over there, it's the same as if you have a block with you and you don't. Like, how mind-blowing is that? And we can do that over and over and over and over again and show people the same results, where it's like when you have friends or I do it all the time, where I have friends that are having issues and they're stressed and stuff. And they're like, hey, can you put me in the block today? And I'll be like, yeah, send me a selfie, and I'll either print it out on my computer, or if it's quick, I can put it on my phone and just put my phone under the block. And like, it's the same thing as if you have a block there, but you don't. And it's just, I hate to keep using the word, but wild. It's just wild. It's like, how is this? And it's,
call me, hey friends, if you're listening to this, call me and be like, can you put me in the block today? I love that. It's another way to be in service with some good intention around supporting others. So beautiful.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so epic to have you on the show. I want to, tangent a little bit to the last couple of questions that I always ask, which we can always talk about Leela, and Leela Q's technology, but really it's to get a little bit of a deeper dive on you from the framework of health optimization and from maybe the biohacking landscape outside of the world of all of this incredible, quantum technology. Is there like a biohack or health optimization practice that's just like lighting you up right now that you'd want to share with the audience that you just love?
So I have three, I guess, but one, and they're kind of anticlimactic. And I say that because I've always done all the extreme stuff, and it always takes me back to just nature. I believe, and the Nobel Prize was won in biology on circadian biology and circadian rhythm, and showing that the importance that our hormones are on clockwork of where the sun is each day. And I would say they're the non-negotiable for me of things like that are watching sunrise. I think it is one of the most important, if not the most important thing you can do just for every day. And the way it sets you, because it sets your hormones. It's not just, I feel good, I'm ready to go for the day, which is going to happen too, but it's really it's a domino effect for the rest of the day. So like being aware of the artificial light, being around that, it's very important. It's very life-changing. It's the one thing that it's like, I will always do that. When I lived in Florida, it was great because every morning I'd go out to the beach and watch sunrise and sunset in the same place. And, another thing that, which I know that is all in your world too, but it's the power of breath and being mindful of your breath. I always will say that the breath is remote to the brain. So exactly how we breathe is exactly how our body responds. So like if you check in with how you're breathing, it's because our insides our internal sides don't really know what's going on outside. It's the way we breathe, whether it's like, it just starts sending all these signals, and it's like you're putting yourself into these fight or flights without really knowing why. You're just like, I'm just driving and someone cut me off. Why is all this stuff going on? But I think being mindful of your breath is is absolute life changing, or what that can do throughout your day.
Yeah.
But those are, I used to do all the extreme, like, I guess, really extreme, like shock value type of biohacks, which I love. But at this end of the day, in my times of doing this, 15 plus years, it's just like, I feel a little more old school. It's like watch my sunrise and be super mindful of my breath, and my days are good. Like
Yeah.
have as much gratitude as you can about everything in your day. Like, and Abraham Lincoln said, like, most folks are only as happy as they make their minds out to be. And I think it's very true. And then, like, those are the biohacks to me, that, if you want to call them biohacks, but for like a better calming life and having a better day and how you see the world, is what makes the most impact for me.
Amazing. And then I always close out with this question, which is about you going back to your teenage self and saying, hey, teenage Todd, here's a piece of advice I'm going to give you that's going to help you change the way you do health and well-being and how you feel every single day into more and more wellness as you grow and as you age. What would that piece of advice be?
Definitely be mindful of the food I eat,
Okay.
because
Good.
the amount of food, everything I ate back then was anything I wanted. And it spent years, trying to rebuild my gut health and everything about me, from my food choices all the way, especially as a teenager.
Yeah, amazing. That's super solid advice. And no one has ever said that as an answer. So I think it's important to share. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing all this insight and information about this wild and exciting new technology and the quantum, so we can have conversations that are open and really understand where the research hits the road. Will you tell everybody where they can find Leela Q?
Yeah. So we have Leela Q, LEELAQ.com is the website. We have, if you're interested in like the Telegram group, you just go, well, we also just have the social media. So it's Leela Quantum on Instagram or Facebook. You can go to the link in bio on there if you want to go join the Telegram group. It's a private group, so you have to go through the link and then you get an invite for it, but we just don't have it publicly posted. We have the quantumupgrade.io, which is Instagram too. And I'm on those. So if you have any questions, feel free to send DMs that way. Like, if you want someone so I'm the one that answers the social media questions, but if you want someone who is not a representative of Leela Q, like, you can go to the Telegraph group and just ask questions, and you'll get very different variety of answers and stuff to do. So it's the best way
Yeah.
to find us.
That's amazing. So good. And then, as always, I lean in to have conversations with you guys. And on my wellpower.life shop page, you can get the link through to the Leela site in case you forget how to spell it. And then use the code there to support the show and support yourself and getting the best technology ever that actually looks so beautiful from us. I'm like, style in my apartment, style around my neck. And then now the stylish jacket that you have on, I'm super stoked about it all. Thank you so much for being here today and unpacking everything having to do with quantum and Leela Q, and more to come for us.
Thanks, Kristin.